Greetings and welcome back. Ooh. Hey, good morning, y'all. Good morning. All praise be to the Creator for another day of life. I pray everybody's doing well. I said, why not chitty chat while we're driving in? Well, I'm driving in to the yummy to get her done. You know what I mean? They say, quote unquote, 2020. We're trying to get her done. So I pray everybody's doing well. If you are not listening in and you have been missing out, feel free to go back to the videos. We are on like the 7th chapter. I kind of like the way it is reading because it just, although the voice things are kind of funny. What's going on, Ella? It makes us move through the chapters like this old audiobook vibration, and we can discuss it. So if you're missing any of that, feel free to go back and listen. Why, but in the mean in between time, this little morning chat, why doesn't his woman respect it? There's so many things that I'm like, what am I going to talk about? You know what I mean? But just looking at, in light of the book that we're listening to, and the things that have happened, and this, what is it called? A debate I heard, or a discussion I heard recently. And I was supposed to, a while ago, go over the Shahzad Ali book, but then time and everything happened and I didn't. The book that she wrote back in the day, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. But I heard Sister Sheikah, she was on another channel and she was discussing this with another, and I'm listening to the Donahue, I think it is, the Donahue interview with Shahzad Ali is on it, and she's talking about the black woman and why she doesn't respect the man and how she needs to, and this, that, and the third. But what I found interesting, and I might have to go pull it up so that we can look at it. What I found interesting is that in the very same breath of saying that the black man is not the most unrespected person and this, that, and the third, a melanated brother respectfully disagreed with her in some of the points she was making, and then she dismisses him while talking about the melanated man needs respect. I don't know if that was just so ironic that you're pushing this narrative about. I'm gonna pull it up so that you can see, not now of course, but so we could go over this, because even in some people who are proponents for saying that the melanated man is not respected, if that man doesn't agree with them, in the next breath they disrespect the same man who they're championing other people to respect. If you could understand what I'm saying, it's just a very weird thing. So ever since I saw that, like last week or something like that, I was like, peace everybody, I was like, man, we need to talk about respect. I did a video on this channel years ago, looking up the etymology of the word respect, looking at what it means, and I think I shared a little bit about, the prefix re and spec, and meaning to look, and regard, and looking back. It has something to do with, regarding someone who's coming after you. So it gets a little weird at the very root of the word. Who's supposed to have respect? And who's, the thought is that the man needs respect and the woman needs something else. She needs love, or she needs adoration. And the thought is that, I'm like, well, everybody needs respect, or maybe I could be wrong. But some people are saying that men are not fueled by necessary love or all of that other. It's respect, like respect him. What are you guys' thoughts? Let me know. You're on the line. Let me know, what do men need? And I'll talk a little bit about, from the feminine perspective, why especially the melanated man is not getting the respect that many say that he needs. The question is, do you just give respect? Is respect earned? Can people lose respect? And we do hear things like, I've lost respect for that person, or that person has gained my respect. So it's not something that you're just born, you drop out the womb and you're like, oh, respect. It's something that you must be taught. Like, you teach your children how to be respectful. You teach your young ones how to respect their parents, how to respect their elders. Some people who were not taught respect in general don't have any. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to a man and woman, the thought process is that once you come in front of the person and you produce your male procreative parts, that automatically guarantees that that person is going to be respected. Not so. Is love without respect? That's a question. One would have to go into definitions. For me, we would have to go into definitions, because when you do word association, we realize, for one person may see as disrespectful, the other person may see as just normal behavior. I mean, in the same way with love, somebody would say love is this. You remember at the beginning of the Lauryn Hill album, and then like, what is love? And then they start going into all of these different definitions of what love is. So there has to be, to a certain degree, a concrete definition a base definition that we're working from. If not, then this is why we keep having this miscommunication across the board. Like, for instance, in some households, they may say respect is giving him the biggest piece of chicken, giving your husband the biggest piece of chicken, giving your father the biggest piece of chicken, or giving him his dinner first. And in other households, they may say, you make sure the little ones eat first, and then you give it, and then you share it to, the man of the house, whatever the case may be. In one place, somebody may be like, that's disrespectful. And in the other place, the man may be like, no, go ahead and go ahead and give it to them. So does it vary based on the person's disposition, or is there a way in which you respect people across the board? Now, concerning men, I think that the respect comes from the degree in which one meets their mark or fulfills their principle, right? And so, if his principle is, or the expectations that people have of him, be able to provide, is to be able to protect, is to be able to direct, right? And take responsibility for those who he's providing for, directing, and protecting. The more he's able to do this, is the more respect that he should, in theory, garner. You know what I mean? But if society, which is what we're even looking at when we look at if society looks at him as, even if you do these things, I need you to go above and beyond. If society says that, then we have these unrealistic goals that we have for him to attain, and when he doesn't, then he doesn't get our respect. So, for instance, he may be providing a home, he may be providing, what he can, his level, basically. And you're like, if he doesn't get the Coach bag, if he doesn't get me this, then he doesn't get me that, then I think I'm gonna jump on the highway. If he doesn't get me this, if he doesn't get me, then he doesn't get my respect. So each time he may meet a mark, the mark gets, you move the goalposts. Right? So these are different reasons why the man is not respected. Sometimes we respect people who don't deserve respect. Somebody, you could disagree if you want. Sometimes people respect people just because they're male, or just because they appear. It's not because they did anything. So they can be they can sit there, hanging out with their friends all day. They can sit there doing all things that not only shows that they don't respect themselves, but they don't respect their household, their family, their community. And then that person gets respect. Like the person who says, I'm going to sell drugs, and I'm going to do it in my own community, and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And that person gets respect because they have the material things that the society values. You know what I mean? So it gets very convoluted there. It gets very wild and crazy when we look at what the word is, what it's supposed to be, and what we make it into. Now, the melanated man, there's many things that his hand is tied in. There's many things that he can do, but there's many obstacles, let's say. And his hands are tied in many situations here. And we see that on a continuum. So in our esteem, or in our eyesight, he is lessened. So it is for the melanated woman, but I'm talking about the man at this point, because it's like, why doesn't she respect him? And so when he doesn't display, and you see it even in the animal kingdom, the alpha male, or that person who displays that you're going to give her what she needs, which is security, which is protection, which is provision. It even happens in the animal kingdom. That individual is the one who gets respect. So you may have some good guys out there who's like, yo, I don't beat her, I don't I don't curse her. I provide for her. Why does she still do this, this, and this? Somewhere in her mind, she has a different picture of what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to act. And even though you're doing what rational people may say is what you're supposed to do, for her it's something missing. Like they say, the bad boy, the good guys finish last. You know what I mean? And so that has to do with our twisted mentality. You know, we have to put that into the equation also. It's not only what we witnessed happening, is what we internalize. Like they like to say, I internalized depression. It's what we internalized and now made the new standard of the man that we should respect. So he goes after those things. He goes after the fast cars, and he goes after the money, and why is he doing that? Yeah, it's to impress friends, but it's to attract the female. You know what I'm saying? To show her that, listen, I'm going to be able to secure you. I'm going to be able to provide for you. And even though it's a mirage in many of those cases, because you may be engaging in a lifestyle that is not going to secure or provide in the long term if something happens to you. But into intermediate, that's what he got money, so she respects that. Now, does respect mean that you have no talk, or you have no say, or there's something that you don't like but you simply comply anyway because you respect that person? Like there's no pushback for that individual? These are questions, y'all. Sometimes I'm bringing y'all into the mind of Amuna sometimes, because sometimes people say she doesn't respect him. And for them, that means she doesn't buy everything he sells, hook, line, and sinker. She doesn't follow him blindly. She doesn't totally trust. Does that respect? Like blindly trusting somebody and walking off the ditch like a lemon, you know what I mean, off the cliff because he says, go that way. It's like the scene in the Malcolm X movie where Betty Shabazz is trying to get through to Malcolm that, listen, you are putting yourself in danger. How many people remember that scene? She's in the room, right? They had a little, I think it was a little christening or a little baby shower or whatever. And she's like, yo, you're putting yourself in danger. You know, these people are calling. Now we're in danger. What are you doing? And he's all like, I'm going to do what I got to do, this, that, and the third. So she starts kind of going with a back and forth with him. And he was like, don't raise your voice in my house. And she's like, you know what I mean? Betty straightened up and stuff. And I'm like, okay. What did he pull? He pulled the my house. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I thought it was our house. So is it because she was a stay-at-home mother? Is it because she was with the children that now when you want to pull rank on her, it has to do with who owns what? Because like I said before, a lot of this talk of respect connects to possessions and position of who owns what. So then it becomes my house and it becomes my money. And so when the woman, I'm going to go now to why in this space and time, why a lot of people are mad, a big mad with the feminist movement, like they like to say, is because if the woman realized that it was the money which equaled the ability or access to certain things was the way in which the man garnered respect, because he went out and he, got the turkey bacon. That one was for Ella. He got the turkey bacon. He went out and got the vegan bacon, right? That means that he's supposed to be respected because his energy and effort is what is sustaining you. So she says, okay, I cannot sit around and wait for you to sustain me. So I'm going to use my own energy, effort, and intellect to go and get the veggie bacon. Now, I don't even like bacon. I don't even like to say that word. I'm going to go out and get what I need to get to sustain myself. And to say, and now I don't owe you my respect because you're not doing that for me. That's kind of where we are today when they talk about 70% of melanated women are single and never been married and don't have suitable mates. Because let's not pretend that, like James Brown said, it was a man's world. And let's not pretend that the rank that often was being pulled is that I provide for you, so you owe me. So when she now says, okay, I'm going to provide for myself for whatever reason, and I don't owe you, the question is, okay, on what terms am I going to respect you? Some men, I don't know what comedian was that? I think it was Kevin Hart, the comedian, who was like, when women expect you to get in a fight or to protect her, and basically like, oh, didn't you see what he did to such and such? You want me to jump in there so it happened to me as well? So when you have that kind of talk, and she's like, well, if anything pop off, and it may have been another comedian, but if anything pops off, I can't even trust that you have my back. Unless the men may know it or not, you lose respect in her eyes. Because now I can't trust you. You know what I mean? It's not like she's out with her girls or her homies. You're supposed to be the person who's there guarding and making sure everything is good, and you have her exposed for whatever reason. But then on the other side of that, if he's too controlling and everybody who looks at you maybe wants you, then she doesn't respect that either. It's really a really slippery slope. Let me say that. Because you do have on the other side where men are overly possessive, overly controlling, and jealous, and think that everybody wants your woman, or everybody's out to get you, and that you can't go anywhere, or you can't, you know what I mean? And then it gets suffocating. Anybody could relate? Let me know. I can't see the comments right now. But yeah, I think a lot of the ideals, I think my father came to me the other day and was talking about it, and I brought up some of these points to him, and he's like, I'm like, if you look at what has happened, you don't have a kingdom, right? Or a land that you govern. I'm not saying no or to make anybody depressed. This is kind of what George was saying in the book, right? If anything pops off, really, how much can you do? There isn't necessarily a network that the men now have this sense of pride, where they are the protection, and they are the military, and they are the not just sole provider, but communal providers. There's no real of I'm just talking about on a wider scale. Mediate the issue rise, and this king, let's say for instance King Solomon, if something arises, they're able to go and get their issues resolved, right? So you know that if you go, it's like today with the judge shows. The reason they go to the judge shows is because they have an issue, be it a small claims or big, and they feel as though if I go to these people, I'm going to get my issues resolved. I'm going to get my matter heard to terms. A lot of times when you're in relationships, men, not only men, but many more times it's men, don't want to go to counseling. They don't want people to know their business. They don't want you to know that they're not necessarily sufficient in this area or that. And so she sits there festering because there's a problem, but there's no resolution, right? She loses respect for him day to day. And then the whole relationship deteriorates. Let me know. I stopped. I can see comments now. LF got jokes, the turkey bacon. Yeah. So, why didn't she respect him for a number of reasons? I would say, I think is that the name of what I named this? Why didn't she respect him? It's for a number of reasons. And even if he has one or two bases covered, whatever picture she may have in her mind, he doesn't meet the criteria, especially if she has to come out, not because she wants to, but because the situation requires that she comes out of her feminine space to go and do the things that society says and structure says that he's supposed to do, like provide, make sure they have a home, make sure the bases are covered. If she has to come out and do those things, and on top of that, do the things that she's supposed to do, no matter what people tell you, intermittently she will begin to lose respect for him. So this is why you will hear a lot of complaints that her money, judge, is her money, and my money is our money, because she's supposed to be the elective. You have the primary course. I'm just talking about like in the spaces that are supposed to be his. You may have the and then you have the things that you must take. So her money oftentimes is supposed to be like, to beautify the place, to do such and such, but for rent, and I could be wrong, but for rent and the basic things of the maintenance, the thought is that's his responsibility. So no matter how society tends to flip it, you will often hear a resentment in the voice of the woman, on divorce court, of course, because this is where I do a lot of studies of when relationships go wrong. You will hear resentment and an indifference that she has to now go out and do what he has to do because he has not secured her financially or emotionally. Also, he may do the things, he may front load the deal, right? So he's going to do all the things that he feels that he needs to do to catch her. So he's going to pay attention, and he's going to call, and he's going to text. This is what males do, right? And then after they feel like they secured the catch, they fall back on all of that stuff. So then she begins to lose respect because he set in her mind that this is how, they got a whole police escort to go out to the church. What in the whistle? They cut off the whole lane. So these are kind of the reasons why he doesn't respect her. Because he has expectations, not all, but some, has expectations, but doesn't deliver on their portion. So you want her to cook the food, but you don't provide the food. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, you don't provide the food, how do you expect the food to be cooked? It's like a give and a take going. Or you provide the food, and then you have a nasty attitude about providing the food, and so therefore the way in which you react, or the way in which you respond to the eating and the nourishment of the home, is in a negative way. LF says, do you think counseling or seeing a psychiatrist is a good thing if the person providing the service doesn't necessarily share the same values? No, right. That's why some people look for people who share the same values, the same value system. This is why they have like Association of Black Psychologists. They have different places where you can get, I'm not saying go to the church, but I'm saying some people who are in there because they have the same value system, or if they're in the mosque, or if wherever they are and they have the same value system, then they're going to counsel you based on that value system. You know what I mean? So there's definitely counseling in wherever the value system is. It's a matter of looking. But a lot of men don't want people to be telling them what to do, or people who they don't respect or don't know in their business, or people to know that they're failing. You know what I mean? All this type of stuff. And so with the issue, like for instance, I saw recent times, they said there was nothing wrong with the couple except one thing. And the couple was great, the couple was fine, except this one thing. The dude had a crazy gambling habit. And why I thought this case was so compelling is because they were so transparent, and the woman said straight, I'm scared. I'm scared because I have 2 children and I feel secure. You're gambling away our money and we're not progressing. See, when the man doesn't understand what she needs to feel secure so that she doesn't retaliate, then he would just think she's nagging him, and he would just think she's bugging him, or he would think she doesn't respect him. Meanwhile, he has a behavior that's detrimental to the family, and brushes it off and doesn't think that, it's that big of a deal. But for her, for oftentimes for the woman, she needs security. If she's not secure, then you're going to hear it. You know what I mean? And so the judge is saying to him, like, yo, can't you hear? The judge said to him, like, stop and hear what your wife just said. She said she's afraid for good reason. You're losing $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a pop, and you're still living in an apartment, and you have 2 children. If anything happens to you, then what? Because understand, it's a big deal when you ask somebody, oh man, do I have water? It's a big deal when you ask somebody to depend on you. It's huge. If you say, stay home and take care of the children, and I got you. It's huge that you're asking a whole adult, an able-bodied adult, to depend on you. That means not only does their life, their sustenance, their well-being depends on you, the lives of the children that you create depend on you. That's a heavy responsibility for the man, and that's a tall glass of water for that woman. And it makes her vulnerable. I'm talking from what I know. I ain't talking from what I don't know. Right? So a lot of women do not have that level of trust. For good reason. For good reason. For whatever the reason is a good one. That they don't have that level of trust and faith that you are going to be able to provide what she needs so that she will not be in need. Right? And so this is some of the reasons why, not just so she hates you, she woke up in the morning and she hates you. It has been proven, there has been a track record set that, listen, I can't necessarily trust you. The problem is that melanated people in the U.S. don't have their own land, infrastructure, nation, so the definition of the relationship is not really based on any real community or shared goals. Therefore, oh, what's up, Jason? There's no community consensus and no clarity. Right, there's a lot of ambiguity. I would agree, there's a lot of ambiguity. Like I said earlier, there's a lack of, she had a whole dog. The whole dog is in the car seat. There's a lack of community, as you're saying. There's no consensus. There's semblance of culture. There's no system of remediation. There's no remedying issues. You have to go outside of your communities. You have to go outside to remedy certain issues that you have. But at the same time, because you do have some other groups who may not run the whole thing, but they still have certain things in place. And it's not to say that other people groups, because even if you go to the continent, there are people who are still, there's women are still concerned about the very same things that women are concerned about here, all across the world. And this is a space where women have been able to be abused financially, because this is the space where if you can control your substance, like, yo, if you don't do what I say, you're not going to eat. And if you don't do what I say, then such and such and such. All across the world, when you look at poverty, or you look at the male-female relationship, and you look at the areas in which he's commanding the respect, one of these areas is in provision. And then at the same time, this is one of the areas where you mostly can be injured and manipulated and exploited. Say I'm lying. Y'all say I'm lying. Y'all say I'm lying. I try to look at common threads throughout whatever it is I'm looking at for the value of understanding what's happening. So when I look in India and I look in China, when we looked at the leftover women, what was the complaint in China? The complaint in China is that you are highly educated. And because you're highly educated, you have access to, you have potential access to earning capacity. And because you have earning capacity, I can't control you in this area, and therefore you're not desirable for me. This is basically what they're saying. And I could be wrong, but this is what it boils down to. When we looked at the leftover women, it was that she has jobs, she has access, she's not broken in this area, she's not dependent on the male in this area, and therefore the male is like, well, how else am I fitting to control her? I can't control her no other way. So we look at the same things are happening in Nigeria. They don't call it leftover women, they call it something else, where the educated women find it hard to find suitable mates. And that led me to start to thinking, y'all. I started to thinking, like, hold up. And what are we talking about here? There were the men who said that they wouldn't want, what did they say? They said there was 3 sexes. There was male, female, and PhD female. Meaning even the males, what is it that the males who also had PhDs did not want a female to mate who had a PhD in China? What was that about? Is there a threat in that? Does it cause role reversal? Like, for instance, you see some of the news come across with some places where the thought is that it's lopsided monetarily. So you had, what's her name? Mary J. Blige and the husband. She had more earning potential than the husband. The husband now started to play a supportive role, which usually is thought as the wife's role. And therefore, the husband now goes to sue her for spousal support because she is now thought to have to maintain him at the standard that she maintained him when they were together. Hallelujah. Very true. That's why on the continent, certain men get multiple wives because the women would rather share a good husband than be absolutely abused by bad men. Sorry, but that's another Jason. Oh, that's another conversation, y'all. That's another conversation. That's another conversation. But I forgot the name of this conversation. Why she doesn't respect you. Let me recap, and then I'm gonna run in here and do this thing right quick. Why does she? For a plethora of reasons. And it's not just one thing. It's really based on the culture. It's really based on experience. It's really based on whether the picture in her mind is right, wrong, or indifferent. It's based on a picture that she has in her mind. And if the male doesn't fit that process or that picture, she begins to lose respect for him. And even if he's meeting the needs in one area or this area and not in these other areas, she may not say it. The ones who are more vocal will say it, and they will use their words to try to get him to conform to the picture that she has in her mind. And this is where the back and forth comes from and the contention and all these things, because, ultimately, unless she's just off the chain, you want to respect the man that you're with. Because if you don't respect the man that you're with, then it don't make no sense that why you with that person. You know what I mean? But when the man does things that are not necessarily respectable, it makes it problematic. Let me just say, it makes it problematic. So we all a work in progress, y'all. I know y'all probably going to say, what about the women? We could talk about that too. But maybe we'll come back and talk another time. There's so many things I want to talk about. But we can come back and talk about the Shahjah Ali book that a long time ago I was supposed to go over and didn't go over. There was something I was going to say, now I forgot. How are you guys doing today? I forgot. It just went right out my mind. It was something. It literally just left my mind. It's okay. So anywho, I've arrived. I'm about to run and go do some things. Man, I really wanted to say it. And I can't remember. Okay, I was recapping on the reason she doesn't respect him. When the roles are reversed. So I'll just leave it like this. Brothers, I know sometimes it's difficult, right? And some of the women would be like, I got you. And then people be like, oh, we're in the age of the new age and it's 50-50 and this, that, and the third. And, and yes, people come put together and put in the pot and contribute. But when the brothers, especially with the finances, when this man is either a stingy man, a man who doesn't manage his finances correctly, or he mismanages his finance, or he's not industrious for whatever reason, these things, and she has to not only compensate but overcompensate, these in this area right here of provision, this could lead to lack of respect. This can lead to losing ground in this area right here. There's other places that men lose ground as it relates to the expectations of where the woman is supposed to be. They're intimate, but that's another story for another day. Because he can be doing all of those things, and then she has expectations of him sexually and physically, and if he doesn't meet those expectations, he can be doing all of the things financially, manages his money well, make sure the house is good, this, that, and the third, and then she just loses respect on this side. Like, it's crazy, it's a slippery slope. But that's another conversation for another day, because that also has to do with the way in which we, the people, have misappropriated the act. Let me just say, for the children watching, we have misappropriated the act and the use of the act and the purpose of the act, and thereby making it something that it didn't necessarily start off as. So again, lack of communication causes everyone act individually and confusion. Yeah, lack of communication, effective communication, because sometimes people talk a lot and ain't nobody hearing nothing. So yeah, lack of effective communication, because like I said, they may yell, they may scream at each other, they may do the side, they may be communicating, but it's just not effectively. And a lack of willingness to not only just hear the person out, but be honest about where you are in the discussion. You know what I mean? There's sometimes that you could be doing more, but you just don't want to. And so it pushes that other person in the relationship to say, I'm going to go out now to make sure that I get what I need, because what you're providing is not enough. And that goes into the multiple marriage discussion that Jeff just brought up, is because on one side, the male could say, what you're providing is not enough, and I need to build this empire, multiple marriage. The woman could say, what you're providing is not enough, and then the thought is, well, it needs to be. You know what I'm saying? So on one end, it's like, it's not enough, I'm going to go do something about it. And on the other end, it's kind of like, it's not enough, oh well. And that creates this level of imbalance. Because if she says, what you're providing is not enough, I have to go out. Now she moves from her sphere, and now she goes into another sphere, and she has to be juggling and trying to incorporate all of these things to make sure, it's enough. Like the wife of a poor man, is she supposed to just be satisfied with being poor? Or does she go out and seek to elevate herself and elevate the family at the risk of losing respect for the husband who's not able to provide the way she needs to, for her not to be poor, for her not to be comfortable? Anywho, thanks for riding with me, y'all. We'll be back later on tonight. Have a little discussion on, let me know if you guys are enjoying the Uncle Tom's Cabin. Not really enjoying, but you're getting value out of it. Share it, do all that lovely. It's cold today. Oh gosh, it's cold. Let me put on this little thing here. It's getting cold, y'all. Yo, yesterday was 70. Florida's tripping. Yesterday was like 70 some degrees, and today it is 57. Let me wrap up my neck. All right, peoples. We'll talk probably like let me see, probably like 8:30. Probably about 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna try to work it in. 8 o'clock, 8:30, 8:30. All right.